Mark Carney tells me, for all of investors' worries about inflation, it is a good sign the economy's moving forward. The former Bank of England governor says the pandemic has spurred a fundamental rewiring of the economy and that new policies will be necessary. I spoke to him following the release of his new book, Values, and asked him what he made of the recent inflation fears.
We've seen some shorter-term supply shocks in terms of supply bottlenecks. We know the issues with chips and others flowing through to the manufacturing sector, particularly autos. We're also seeing some frictions, though, in labor markets. And one of the judgments my former colleagues at central banks are going to have to make is whether those are temporary because the support mechanisms are still there, or whether they're more permanent. But I would say, in general, Richard, the combination of the strength of the initial bounce backs, the scale of the stimulus that's still being provided, and the fact that we're seeing some of these supply frictions, if I can put it that way, suggests that we will be in a position where inflation returns more firmly, and policy will need to be adjusted. And I'd underscore, though, that that is a good scenario because that means that economies are moving forward.
But by your own admission in the book, you say we're not going back to the pre-COVID economy. And
that's right.
The acceleration of job losses, the preparation time that perhaps we squandered for the fourth industrial revolution, that time of preparation no longer exists. We're in it.
That's absolutely right. We've had this acceleration. So we have two big rewirings of our economy underway right now. The acceleration of the digital revolution, and I don't think it's an overstatement to call it a revolution. That means that brings big restructuring. It also, of course, brings big opportunity. I think one of the things we've learned is how distributed activity can be. I can be in Ottawa and be connected to you. I mean, there's many examples. So we will see activity distributed across our economies in a good way. That requires specific policies to make sure these interconnections are there. So that can lean against the job loss. But one of the points is, and I think it's your core of your question, if we just let this unfurl, roll out, it will be like every other industrial revolution, which leads initially to big spikes in inequality and large dislocation of jobs. We can't let that happen. That's why we have to be deliberate.
I guess many central bankers, and you're a former central banker, but many central bankers and former central bankers are concerned at the loss of control. Makes it sound like the Prince of Darkness, but you know what I mean. Loss of the ability to control the money supply, loss of the ability to control economies if cryptocurrency takes on a life of its own.
Yeah, I think the concerns are some of the concerns are pretty fundamental. The concerns are the use cases for some of these currencies, for activities out of the formal financial sector through to money laundering, ransomware, other factors. I mean, these are core use cases of some of these currencies, particularly Bitcoin. That is a concern. It's a very legitimate concern. Secondly, there's concern about resilience of the system, and not just the crypto asset itself, but the entire ecosystem, because you have to think about how it works as overall. Thirdly, the fact is that as part of the system, these ultimately reconnect to the formal financial system. So in the end, it's about the resilience of the formal financial system. Look, there's learnings to be taken from crypto. There are areas where, as I say, distributed finance could be quite effective. But in the end, my judgment, very much rooted in values, rooted in history, rooted in what people want, is that we will end up with central bank digital currencies that are programmable themselves. And the key is that that is done in a way that improves competition, improves the effectiveness of the financial system.
As you look forward, I mean, or rather, reviewing where you've been and looking forward what you're doing now, what is your biggest concern? I mean, you have sat at the top table of international economics and finance for, I was going to say decades, but that ages both of us since we're sort of fairly similar age. But you sat at the top table. What worries you now?
What worries me immediately, and this won't surprise you because it's staring us in the face, is COVID, and it's COVID globally. The importance, we all know it's. Here's another line that isn't a slogan, it's a reality. It's not over anywhere till it's over everywhere. And are we doing enough? The answer is no. We are not yet doing enough to ensure that COVID is rapidly addressed globally. We need to do more on that. And then that links into the ability for international cooperation on a host of other issues. Of course, as you know, Richard, I'm spending all my time basically on climate change, helping the UN, helping the UK presidency of COP26, working in terms of investing to help reduce emissions. So that is my principal focus, and it's the ultimate issue. But in the immediate term, it's the health issue around COVID and really wrestling it to the ground.